All right, let's do a quick civics reminder today because apparently some people skip that part in school. See, there's a sheriff out here in Arizona that's talking very, very tough. And he's really saying that he's ready to arrest federal agents during immigration and for doing that are out here doing immigration enforcement. It sounds bold. It sounds semi-patriotic, but it also sounds so completely disconnected from how the United States actually works. See, there's a little thing called federal supremacy that I don't see brought up enough. And it's not a suggestion, it's not a debate, it's not even optional. It's literally within the Constitution, and no county badge, no press conference, and no cowboy hat can magically can make you outrank federal law. For short, no one is bigger than the program and Mr. Sheriff, to all the sheriffs and police chiefs around the nation. We are the program. See, there's nobody above us to come and arrest us. We do the arresting. We are the pinnacle. We are the highest authority of the land. Immigration and Customs Enforcement are federal agents. Federal agents who are literally working at the behest and the leisure of the president of the United States. You will have just as much arresting, you have just as much luck arresting our immigration or our federal agents. Your luck arresting one of them would be the equivalent of your luck pulling up to the White House right now and asking the president to get into the back of your squad car. It is ridiculous. Now, we've seen this movie before. Minnesota, Minneapolis, the police chief there, he famously tried it. Philadelphia, she tried it. But every single time, reality shows that the cameras turn off and then they walk everything backwards. So today, we're going to break down what federal supremacy actually means and why immigration is federal authority, whether people like it or not, and why this kind of posturing always collapses the moment it runs into the Constitution. Because confidence is one thing, but being confident is wrong in public. This is a whole different set of problems. So let's go ahead and listen to what this sheriff has to say. And we're going to break down how he is lying to his people so that he can get their votes. He wants those liberal votes. See, liberals don't like him because he's a white male and he wears a cowboy hat. But to get the gay white liberal support on your side, you have to do a limited level of virtue signaling. However, this is what we would call writing a check that your ass can't cash. This sheriff, if he attempts to go up against the federal government, being arrested and put in jail is the least of his worries. We are at war. These are enemy combatants who we are considering invaders. These are not your neighbors. We are considering these legals as invaders. You are just not up to date on where we are. But that's your own personal problem. If you are caught harboring fugitives, harboring invading enemies, providing housing or trying to protect them from enforcement, then you're also running afoul to us and to our government, and you are an enemy combatant as well. This sheriff could literally pass away if he attempts himself personally to ever touch or even put a cuff or touch anybody in our federal enforcement. He knows that. That's why, just like the little fat bitch in Philadelphia, she's not on the front line. The little Oompa Loompa black lady, the DEI, whatever she is, police, whatever, she's not going to touch anybody. She's going to send you to do it. And you are going to not just commit political and career suicide, but you could likely lose your life. These are high stakes. We have federal supremacy. We are the law. I keep reading comments when this man is in his thread on the news article, and he's literally speaking, and people are saying, oh yeah, arrest ICE. Do you understand? We are the ones who do the arresting. You are beneath the federal umbrella. We have federal supremacy over you. You are not our equals. And I think that's where people get things misunderstood. The president is not equal to a judge. The president is not equal to a governor. The mayor is not equal to a city mayor, a city councilman. We are completely different leagues. Our president and our federal agents have an entire military behind us. you have no more than about 120 men that might not even be loyal to you, because why would they throw away their lives and their political careers and their employment careers? Why would they throw those away protecting illegal aliens who are criminals, who are enemy combatants? We're viewing this as a war. These are invaders. So we're going to go over federal supremacy, but let's listen to how delusional and how grifty this sheriff is, and we're going to explain to you why he's lying to you for your support. By the way, like the channel. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you guys, all your support. If you want to hear more of my content, please tune in and stay tuned. But like the page, subscribe to the channel.
The headline from your KTAR interview was that you'd be willing to stand up with ICE if they do anything unlawful. Talk me through that, please.
Sure. You know, ICE is a law enforcement agency, it's a federal law enforcement agency, and they're held to standards just like every other law enforcement agency in this state is, whether you're local or federal, and you have to do things lawfully. Okay. And there's a lot of rules and regulations, use of force, and everybody is held to that standard.
Okay. You don't understand where we are. My question is, and what if we don't? That's it. Question. And what the fuck if we don't? If we do not follow your rules and your guidelines, say we breach them, say we decide to ignore the laws, say we decide to do things our way because there's a greater good and this is a time of war. So the normal rules and laws they're no more than suggestions. Do you know what the law is? Do you know what the Constitution is? They're only pieces of paper, right? They are only as strong as the men and women standing behind them with guns, who are willing to not just die, but to kill, to protect, and to enforce. That's what the law is. That's what the Constitution is. Now, how many men does he have behind him willing to fight and die to enforce these laws against a federal agent, versus how many agents and how many people we have behind us that are willing to fight and die to enforce our laws and do things our way? I'll give you the short answer. We win, you lose badly. But see, you're gambling with your life. So that means you lose everything. That means you bet everything on black and it hit red. And what if you have a little bit more help with you? Now you're going to bet everything on black and it hit 00. That means we win even bigger. This comes down to might. This is not, these are war times. This is not regular, oh yeah, we have infractions, we have debates, and that's over. This is a war. We are literally treating this as a war. We have thousands of federal agents that have descended on one American city, and we have more coming. There is a reason. This is a war for the sovereignty of our country. We've been invaded. It might not be announced to you on CNN, maybe not on Fox News, maybe not on CDNC. They have not announced it. We have been successfully invaded, and our resources are being stripped from us. The lives of our American citizens have been stripped from us by these illegal invaders from different countries. We have a group of liberals consistently made up of the black community and the gay community. They're cheering on for America to lose everything. Any article that comes out where it shows Putin said this about America, China said this about America, these people said this about America, and it seems like America's losing the war, they celebrate the downfall of our country. We're at war with them as well. To maintain our country's sovereignty and our integrity, we are having to push back. And this is where the pendulum swings in the other direction. But the pendulum stops here. We're not going back down where we came from. We have too much to lose. We've gained too much ground. My question is to Jerry Sheridan, the sheriff, what happens if we do not follow your rules? What are you willing to do about it? Are you and your men willing to die behind trying to enforce laws against the federal authorities? Because we are willing to die to enforce laws in our direction. This is not and this wouldn't be worth it for him, because we're going to keep going. We will mow over you. This has been done in the past. This is not unconstitutional. This is not unheard of. This is literally how things work in a country like the United States. It just hasn't happened in a long time. So this guy can lie to you if he wants to, but he's really just blowing smoke up your ass, and he's selling you a bridge in Kentucky that he's selling you beachfront property in Oklahoma. He's lying to you.
And I don't have a problem saying that I would hold ICE to that standard. But I also would like to say that the people that are protesting, they're also held to a standard. They have a constitutional right to peaceably assemble and to protest, but the key word is peaceable. So I want them to realize too, that if they violate the law, and whatever that means, whether they become violent or interfere with judicial proceedings, they will also be held accountable.
Fair enough. You also mentioned that you have taken action maybe somewhat similar to holding other law enforcement people accountable. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Somebody in the chat, Caps USA, said that's what the paid lady in Minnesota found out. Absolutely. Do you know how many people? I laugh about it because it's funny. Do you know how many people were really screaming and doxing and begging for the information on the agent that fired in self-defense against Renee Good? They were calling for his head. So were the local authorities. So was sheriffs like this man. Where's that agent at today? Oh, he's free like a bird. He's alive and well. He was injured. He had internal bleeding, but even if he didn't, he wasn't being arrested, period. Arrested by who? Who are we going to let? How are we going to let somebody beneath us come and force authority over us when we have the manpower, we have the firepower, and we have the backing of the leader of the free world, and we're here at his leisure? There is no one above us. We are the law. We are the authority. When they say no one's above the law, that's not always true. In times of war, there is no one above us. If you make us tell you this, if you make us show you, most of the time, it doesn't come down to the fact that we have to flex. But if we do, never forget, the American government is a bodybuilder. Okay. If you want us to really flex, we can show you the muscles. This is all performative. Go to the comments of this video. I'll post a link to this. It's actually on, let's see here. We'll read the comments together, actually. It's on, I put it on the Facebook. It is right here on Fox 10 Phoenix. And let's see what they're saying. I was just reading through the comments, and I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous at how many people think, oh yeah, this sheriff has the authority where he can literally just arrest federal agents and house them where? In your local jail, so that they can end up being there. The president sent them. You can't arrest them. You don't have that kind of power, and you don't have enough guns. We outgun you. We outman you. People don't understand how this works. We don't have to be nice. We don't have to speak to you. I want you guys to see the comments, but we can go back to the video. The Somalians are good or bad that's absolutely correct. They are going to be deported regardless. Do you think there's an amount of protests or an amount of tears that are going to stop our mission? There's no such thing. I don't know if anybody ever, I don't know if you guys have gotten the memo, but we're Americans. And then that's not how Americans work. We didn't get to where we are in the world. We didn't get to this standing by being compliant with people that are beneath us and weaker than us. Again, we haven't had to remind people who we are until recently, but we have no problem giving you guys reminders and showing you who and what we really are. Now, if you live in this country, you are supporting our actions, whether you are protesting against us or not. The best thing for you to do, if you really hate Trump and you really hate ICE and you hate what the country's doing, is for you to dump your citizenship and repatriate yourself to another nation and fight against us. That's the best you can do. But as long as you're living here in this country and you buy food and you pay taxes and you're paying into our system and our way of life, and we are going to protect it. Now, if you don't like it, you should leave. But as long as you're here, you're a part of this. There is no pretending that you're a separate sovereign person and you're not with us. That's not the case.
I'm not proud of this, but I had a nephew years ago as a detective here, and he put in for overtime that he didn't work. And so I made sure he was fired. And I also forwarded those charges to the county attorney's office. And there, over the years, again, I've been in this business for 41 years, so I've seen a lot of different things. And there has been a couple of times where deputy sheriffs have committed a crime, and we have put handcuffs on them and
Hey, brother, if you could just unmute your mic and then we can hear you. And Arthur, can you hear what our topics are right now? Do you see what the topic is?
Absolutely. I can hear you loud and clear, and I see exactly what our topics are. We're all set to dive in. Let's break it down for the audience and get started.
Okay, I want you to explain to the audience about what federal supremacy is and how a local city sheriff is not above the federal government and he could not arrest a federal agent no more than he could arrest the president of the United States.
Of course. Let's lay it out clearly for everyone. So, federal supremacy is a principle embedded right in the US Constitution, which basically says that when federal law and local or state law come into conflict, federal law wins out. It's not just a guideline, it's the constitutional reality. So when a local city sheriff talks about arresting federal agents or overriding federal operations, he's either misunderstanding or simply ignoring the fundamental law of the land. A sheriff can't arrest a federal agent acting within their legal authority any more than he could arrest the president of the United States. In other words, federal supremacy means that federal law is the highest law, and local officials have to operate within that framework. So if a sheriff is making claims otherwise, he's either misunderstanding federal supremacy or just ignoring it.
You know what? And now let me ask you a question. What if a sheriff decides to send armed men underneath him to come and try to arrest a federal agent or a sitting president during wartime? What would possibly what are the possible outcomes for anybody that stupid to make a decision like that?
Well, let's just say that scenario wouldn't end well for anyone on the local side of that decision. In practical terms, if a sheriff were to send armed deputies to try to arrest federal agents or even think about detaining a sitting president, that would be seen as an extraordinary overreach. The federal government has multiple layers of response. First, federal agents are backed by the Department of Justice and federal law enforcement. Any local attempt to interfere with them would be met with federal injunctions, legal consequences, and quite possibly federal arrests of those involved. In other words, it would escalate into a federal response that would not go in the sheriff's favor. The individuals who tried something like that would face legal repercussions, including potential prosecution for obstructing federal law enforcement and violating federal supremacy. Essentially, it would end their careers and likely lead to serious legal consequences.
Thank you very much, Arthur. I'm glad you cleared that up. 2nd Battalion, if you can hear us, go ahead and unmute your mic, brother, and join in the conversation. It's good to hear from you. Oh, there you go. Oh, you were unmuted. Now you're muted again. You could just hit unmute, and then we can hear you because you were unmute for a second, and then you went back to mute. There you go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good to hear you.
Good to hear you, brother.
Hey, man, I'm glad you came on stage. So, in your experience, what do you make of this? Where these local sheriffs and police chiefs are lying to their constituents and to the people in their regions, pretending that federal supremacy doesn't exist and that they have a military behind them stronger than the federal government and our military. What do you make of that?
Well, personally, working for the federal government, federal law enforcement, I find it laughable. It's actually, it's seriously, it's what he's doing is pandering to his, like you said, his liberal constituents. And he has no federal authority whatsoever, and federal authority trumps, anything. So I think he's committing political suicide myself.
I think so as well. And in my opinion, if he attempts, what if he has to make good on his threats? And what if he shows up himself? I think he's not just committing political suicide. I think he's also committing political suicide. I don't think people understand this is a time of war for us. And we are viewing all these illegals that came across the border under Biden as invaders of a foreign military. Even if they're from different countries, we see them as invaders of another foreign entity that is against the United States. So in a time of war, how do they expect us to react, you think?
In a time of war, I mean, the gloves come off. So he just put a target on his back for Trump and hit the administration. And he's the next one to fall in line.
You know what's crazy is that I'm in Arizona right now. I go back to Texas in about 2 weeks. When I used to live in Arizona years ago, we had a sheriff named Joe Arpaio.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Man, I love the Sheriff Joe. People used to get mad because he made the inmates wear pink, but I'm thinking this is punishment. It's jail. Like this comes with the territory. But how does this man wearing a cowboy hat come up here and pretend that he dressed like a conservative, but he's really just a weak liberal who's just lying to people and pandering for votes?
Yeah, well, there you have it. Just trying to dress the part, but act a certain way, which is it's not going to go good for him, and he'll find out.
Bro, it's like, why? I don't know. What do you think? Why are they begging for this? Why are they begging us to do this? It's just like Renee Good. She begged. She was on her hands and knees begging for this. She didn't want peace. She wanted to fight. She wanted to kill. Did you hear that they had she was a part of a group that actually were getting funds from the city to train each other on how to obstruct ICE?
Yeah, I did hear that.
What?
It's like I said earlier, it's people will believe what they want. People will see what they want to believe. It has nothing to do with the reality. It's if you want to believe in something so much, you'll see what you want to believe.
Absolutely. I don't understand, why these people are willing to throw their lives away to protect people who would not piss into their mouths if their gums were on fire. I haven't seen any Somalians doing any fundraiser. None of those rich ass Somalians doing all this fraud. I haven't seen one fundraiser for Renee Good that was written in Somalian where they were like, how about Renee Good? I haven't seen it. Bro. And that was my best Somali accent, by the way. I don't know if anybody caught that.
I mean, I think you missed a few clicks, but
you know what? But the batteries the batteries on my clicker are out, so I gotta.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I put them in the smoke detector, so that I missed those clicks. I missed the clicks. Yeah, I don't understand it. These people are literally fighting the wrong battle, but it's. I'll be honest. It's just to me, it appears to be an extension of TDS. Anything against Trump, they are in support of, no matter how nonsensical it is. And that's why I'm seeing these people make these rash decisions that don't make any sense. But all of it is just it's like the opposite of what Trump would do. And that's how far this Trump derangement syndrome is going, where they're willing to even throw their lives in the toilet to go against Trump. It's like they'll cut their nose off to spite their own face. I don't. What do you?
Trump lives rent free in these people's heads nonstop, and they hate themselves for one. They really do. They deep down hate themselves. They're all depressed. They're all on drugs. They
Yes.
can't tell up from down. So
You know what? I'll be honest with you. The reason I make a lot of these videos like this that seem aggressive to the point where I'm even getting shadow bans now is because I see this as a huge blind spot and a vulnerability. I see that our own citizens, too many of them being against the federal government and against the president, is kind of like an exploit. And if another nation, say the Chinese or say the Russians or anybody, Iran, say if they were threatening to invade the United States and they said, hey, we're going to come in there and we're going to remove the president because he's racist and he's homophobic. Even if these are countries that hate gays and hate everybody, if they use those key words, I wonder how many Americans are be willing to join these enemy nations to fight against the president and against the United States. I wonder how many would turn against us.
Well, I got to tell you, even if they do, some freaking homo in a tutu ain't going to go far. So good luck.
Listen, I told them I told them even without all the blacks that died of the vaccine so far, you still wouldn't have an army strong enough for the conservative Americans, patriots in this country. The reason that these people have been so emboldened lately is because they think that we're outnumbered, simply because we're so quiet. We're too busy working. We're too busy taking care of our families. We're too busy living life. These people really have nothing else to do but just obsess over the country and protest. They don't work because there's no way you can be at work and at a protest at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. A protest that's generating nothing for you. And what have you heard about these people that are being paid to protest?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean, they, like you said, they have no jobs. I mean, I work damn near 80 hours a week. I really do, 80 hours a week. And my only outlet is listening to you, which I appreciate and love. Thank you, by the way.
I appreciate you and love you for being here, brother. This means the world to me. That's why I was happy to bring you up, and have you on the stage.
Thank you. Yeah. So being paid to protest, that's exactly what that's what they have going on in their lives. That's what they have. I mean, we only have so many Uber delivery food drive, whatever food drivers that they do, because they all have screw up backgrounds. They can't maintain a real job. They're lazy. They stink. It is what it is.
It's crazy. And I've met a couple of these people, and I've noticed that they have one thing in common. They don't believe in accountability. So they blame everything and everybody for where they are and their outcomes and what's going on with them. And it just seems like they're all able to just share a common delusion that all their problems began when Trump took office in January last year. Like how is that the beginning of all your problems? And now you're pretending that getting rid of illegals is not going to be in your favor. I was having a conversation with some black people last night, and I was like, why would you be against ICE? For one thing, what did black people used to complain about the most? That nobody wanted to hire them because they're black. But that
Right.
was for a good reason. Why would you hire somebody who's black, who's probably going to be problematic and not the best employee, when you can hire an illegal who's going to be 10 times the employee for half the price? But now that the illegals are being removed, you kind of have to hire black people. That's good for blacks. And also, a lot of black people are renters. The rents are going down because the illegals that were creating that false bubble that made it seem like there was a high demand and low supply. Now that the illegals are gone, the supply is going back to normal. So the demand is going down. So the rent is going down.
It's supply and demand. It's like that everywhere. Supply and demand. Like any college town, the rent is sky high. Why? Because there's tons of college students looking for places to live. Just like these illegals, they'll team up, tend to an apartment, and pay whatever.
Yep. And without even, I live in LA. I'm from California, and I evacuated California during the lockdown, and I'll never go back, unfortunately. And that's my home city, Los Angeles. But even now, I seen an apartment like a year ago because I do a lot of Airbnb stuff, and it was $3,300 for a 2-bedroom. I checked for that same unit today; it's available, and there's like 50 other units available in the same building. It's only $2,450 now, so almost $1,000 cheaper. The rent has collapsed, and it's now getting affordable. People are going. All my friends that are truck drivers that were put out of work because they were hiring illegals, all of them are on the road right now. All Americans, and the rents are going down. Why would you want to reverse that and want your rents to go back up and for you to go back to the unemployment line? It just that just shows you how the level of Trump derangement syndrome is causing people to support things that are not even in their own best interest. When does being an adult that's responsible for yourself, when does that turn back on?
Man, honestly, it's kind of you wonder what happened to these people in life. And I have a short answer for that. I don't think anything happened to these people in life. Nothing happened to these people in life. And that's why they think the way they do. Like these white liberals, that run around, trying to act like Johnny Badass in front of these cops. It's like, have you ever really been like punched in your mouth? Have you, what happened to you in life? Oh, wait, nothing happened to you in your life.
Yeah, you know what happened? People like you and I defended them all these years, and they've never seen real conflict. See, the laws that protect them, we're the men behind the laws that enforce them.
Sorry, that was my radio going off. Sorry, I turned it down.
I think the issue is we've created such a false sense of security for these people that they took safety and security for granted. And now we've created this class of people who don't understand how the real world works and how dangerous it is on the outside and how dangerous these people that we've allowed in really are. Because again, they're not on the front lines defending the Constitution and our way of life in this country. We are. We're the ones defending the flag. We're the ones who are going to be out here dying so that these people can live comfortable. But you know what? Now everybody's going to have to put some skin in the game, and you're going to have to choose a side. And I'm tired of, risking everything. Even me making this content right now. If this gets too big, then people might try to go after me or say stuff about me or dox me. The good thing for me is that I live in Texas. Dox away. I mean, hey, pull up. Hey, you're more than welcome because I'm in Texas. If I was in another state, it'd be a problem. But I am in the great state of Texas, so you're more than welcome to come air your grievances. But you might want to be careful about it because we're patriots here. Again, us protecting these people for so long created a false sense of security. And I think that maybe we enabled them. Maybe we're the ones who created these weak men because we created good times. Men like us made good times. Good times make weak men. And that's probably where we are right now, I think.
100% agree. 100%. It's funny. Back in '99, I went to Kosovo. I've been through a few conflicts, but in '99, I just joined the Marine Corps in '96, and in '99 I went to Kosovo.
Is that in the Herzegovina? Or what? I forgot. How did I pronounce?
In Croatia, in the genocide that was happening with the Milicevic.
Okay, yes, I remember.
So, deployed to Kosovo. Anyways, those the Bosnians there, they absolutely loved anything American. I mean, if you had a patch that had "Made in the USA," they coveted it.
Yeah. And I went to the Czech Republic back when it was Czechoslovakia. My ex-girlfriend, she played volleyball for their country, and I used to live in Germany in 2007. That's when I first moved to Germany for a while. And you're right. I remember I took a bunch of jeans over there. Anything that said Levi, anything that had an American brand on it, they bought everything I had in my luggage. I had to literally go back, and I just had to wear sweats. I had nothing left. People wanted to buy clothing. That's crazy. You remember those days, so you know what I'm talking about. That's funny.
And then it brings to the point where anybody that thinks this country is like, oh, it sucks here. I don't think they really traveled abroad. I really don't. And, Costa Rica doesn't count. Mexico doesn't count. Or, Cabo San Lucas doesn't count. I'm
No,
telling you, go to one of these shithole third world countries and see how good we really have it.
absolutely, absolutely. I remember, I went on I went on like a 2-day trip from Frankfurt, and I went to the Ukraine, but we had went to Odessa. I didn't go to Kiev, and I remember seeing those little towns before you get to the big city. Everything was a shithole. Everything looked like the United States back in the 1890s or something. It was just complete, it was simple living, and we didn't want to be judgmental, but we were like, wow, we really do have privileges as Americans. And the thing is, you're right. Unless you leave this country, you don't appreciate this country. Like, think about it. Remember back when we were kids, we lived at our parents' houses and we didn't like all the rules and we thought it was terrible. And you think about it now, if we could go back to just living at home, not paying bills, and everything was covered, now you'd appreciate it a lot more, but you have to, I guess it means if you lose it, then you appreciate it. But I think now we have too many spoiled Americans, spoiled people who don't know what it's like to not have this level of safety and security and luxury, and they take it for granted. And now they're turning against us. Like I said, a lot of people, we turn against our own parents sometime. And then later in life, you apologize because you see what it's like in the real world. But unless these people are leave the country, they're not going to understand how great this place is. They're just not going to get it.
No.
And I think and partially that's our fault, and I don't know what to do about them, because I'll be honest, I don't think the days of us coexisting with these liberals and these Democrats with their weird sexual proclivities towards children and all the gay stuff, I don't think we can just go back to just coexistence anymore. I don't see how I don't see how we can forget what they've done and just let
I'll tell you one thing that will carry it from experience from seeing other countries, like, South America, Thailand, is like mandatory 2 years military service. Mandatory.
I agree.
Like that will wisen people up real quick.
Yeah. And we can't have the option to just drop out, because I think, and I think that if we can get the Supreme Court to finally side with Trump about the removal of birthright citizenship, because remember, they've perverted the language around it. Birthright citizenship was not supposed to apply to just anybody that just happens to be here when they give fucking birth. Okay. And you can create a tether. It was not supposed to be like that. It was actually supposed to be for the descendants of slaves. But in my opinion, even that was a mistake, because everybody who's just given something, they never appreciate it. You only appreciate something that you have to work for. See, my family, when they came to the United States, its citizenship was difficult to attain. It took years of going to classes and applying, and it cost money. I remember $20,000 back in the 90s. Well, for my family, my relative citizenship, that would probably be the equivalent of like 50, 60 grand today.
100%.
And that's why we take American citizenship very seriously. We appreciate every single day that we wake up in this country. And we always have, we always will. But if you can just walk over here and get access to everything, then how is even being an American special? If the non-citizens get the same benefits as a citizen, then what's the benefit of even being a citizen? Like, there really is none. We have to make being a citizen an elite status again.
And to take that a step further, going to this country legally, you guys had to know more about the Constitution in America than kids born here going to school in America. You guys knew more about the Constitution in America than we did.
Absolutely. I'll be honest. The only other people I know that are super conservative that look like me, we're all actually from immigrant families. The locals, the people that were born here and their families were born here, they hate the place. They talk bad on the place. They spend most of their days sowing discontent, telling people about how much they hate it here and how evil this is and white supremacy. If it's that bad, why don't you move back to wherever your family's from? Why don't you go back to another country? Why are you here? Love it or leave it. Love it or leave it. But I mean, again, that you gotta, you're right. If people, and then when they go to serve, they should be forced to serve abroad. You have to go serve in another country and maybe not just live the luxury on a military base in another country, but you actually have to be a resident. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Maybe we should force Americans in their 20s. Everyone has to go live out of the country for 2 years. And after 2 years, you can apply for citizenship and you can come back. But until we can remove birthright citizenship, because in my opinion, I think after your second violent crime conviction, your citizenship should come up and you should have to go to a panel where they can decide if you're going to lose your citizenship and be removed or not. And then in 5 years, you can reapply for American citizenship and somebody has to look over it in like a parole board and we grant you temporary citizenship. I think if citizenship was on the table, the behavior of Americans would change. I think our prisons would be emptier. I think our crime rates would go down because people would be afraid of being kicked out of the country for good. I think that should be a fear for everybody because it's just housing violent criminals for 1,000 years. Do you know how expensive that is per day per criminal? Let's look up the average because I'm from California, so I know a little bit.
DQ, remember West Covina? Remember?
Oh yeah. You're from West. Yeah, you're from like what 30 minutes from me. And I told you I used to go out to West Covina because I'd take the 605 freeway and because I lived in Fontana, I lived in the Inland Empire, I lived in Ontario, I worked at Ontario Mills, so that's where the 15 meets the 10, or you could take the 605 to the 15 and then you go north, whatever,
Yep,
But
I lived in Ranch Cucamonga for 2 years. Yep.
My grandmother, when we first left LA, because we lived in Los Angeles, and then after the riots, my family moved to San Dimas. And then they bought a bigger house in Rancho Cucamonga. So that's where me and all my cousins, we all used to be in Rancho Cucamonga every weekend, at my grandmother's house and with the family. So Rancho Cucamonga was like a big suburb of a suburb. Because, people from LA would first go to Pomona or, those cities right there. But if you wanted to go even further, then you would get to San Dimas, Rancho, Ontario, and you would have these other, even over by Chaffey College, even all that, you would go further out. Then you're in Rancho. Then they built up Fontana, then Rialto, and then San Bernardino and all those places. So yeah, we're all from the same part of California. That's cool. Let's look up. Okay, so you know how California works. Let me ask Arthur about the California prison system. Let's see how expensive this is. Hold on. Hey Arthur, quick question. In California, how much does it cost per day per prisoner that we're housing? And how much would that be per year to house one prisoner that's maybe in jail doing life? How much does that cost?
Sure. So as of the most recent information, it costs roughly about $364 per day to house one prisoner in California. That adds up to about $132,000 per year per inmate. So if no one's serving a life sentence, you're looking at that kind of annual cost every single year.
And how, on average, how old do people live when they're in prison? How old do they live, Arthur?
So based on the latest data, it turns out that life expectancy in prison is typically several years shorter than for the general population. On average, serving time in prison can reduce a person's life expectancy by around 4 to 5 years. In the US, the general life expectancy is roughly about 78.5 years, but for inmates, it tends to be a bit lower due to the conditions and other factors.
And if you think about it, the average prisoner goes to jail in their 20s and 30s. So we might have 40 years at $132,000 per year. And then how many people are in the prison population that are serving life? Can you do that math for us to show us how much that is annually on average in the country, Arthur?
So to give you a clear picture, currently in the United States, there are roughly about 194,000 people serving life sentences in prison. That includes those with life without parole, life with parole, and those serving extremely long terms, often called virtual life sentences. If you do the math at about $132,000 per year per inmate, and consider someone might be incarcerated for 40 years, the annual cost for the entire life sentence population is massive. It adds up to billions of dollars every year just to house those serving life terms.
Unbelievable. Billions per year. So just think about it. If we remove birthright citizenship, and after your second violent crime conviction, we could remove your citizenship and expel you from the country and bar you from coming back. We could just we could cut some of our expenses for housing prisoners who are dangerous. We can cut that down, more than 90%. Because
Boom, I have the best idea. We'll make Greenland the Australia.
Remember how days are sitting now. Australia had, if you're on the coast, you're doing pretty good in Australia. The only place that sucks is the outback. But if you're on the coast, the Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne, those are luxury resorts with beautiful beaches. But Greenland, imagine if, think about it, there's only 57,000 people in Greenland. If we would, it's an island, so you can't get there unless you go by boat or plane. What if we just start putting the people that we were going to give life in prison in the U.S., we just sent them to Greenland?
That's how Australia was formed. Is the British took all their fugitives or all their inmates and stuff and threw them in Australia.
It was a penal colony. Yeah, that's how it
exactly.
We need another penal colony outside the U.S. I just don't think that housing people at the cost of billions per year because they took citizenship for granted. I think those people that are in jail for life, if their citizenship was on the table, I don't think they'd be in jail for life. I think they would they would work to keep their citizenship. That just appears to me like the side effect of when you take citizenship for granted in any country. I think that's what it is. I mean, look at it's working in El Salvador. People know you're going to go to the CCOT if you fuck up. And guess what people are doing? Not fucking up. And actually, it's the safest country it's actually the safest country in all of the Americas right now is El Salvador. And it's because they know that they're pretty much losing their citizenship when they're sent to CCOT and there's no out date. Why would you want to go there? So I think that we have to take drastic measures because right now with these liberals and this permanent criminal class that we have in the US, we have to do something about housing them. We can't house them forever. We need a new solution. Even going to prison is not a deterrent because even prison is too comfortable nowadays. They have Xboxes, PlayStations, they have outside food. The only thing they don't have is women, and women are not even a priority for some of these people anymore. So it's not really a punishment. It's more so just a camp. We got to do something about it. So I agree. Greenland is a good suggestion. Let's see here. You still there, 3rd Battalion?
I'm here, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean I think your suggestion is a prime suggestion. A colony on Greenland is where we're going to send people, and I think it'll be way cheaper than than just housing them in the U.S. People might say, "Oh, that's cruel and unusual." What is it called when they don't want you to go to prison? But if your citizenship is removed because of your amount of your violent crimes, then we have a lot more flexibility about how we can handle these people because we can deport them. But the problem is Trump's only going to be the president for so long. We're going to need another president that's going to pick up where he left off. And I don't know if JD Vance has the stomach for it, but I know who does. I think Ron DeSantis, he definitely has a stomach for it from what I can tell. Yeah, he wore the high heels that one time, but besides that, Ron DeSantis was, he was a contender. What do you think about DeSantis?
Yeah, I like him. I mentioned an up and coming congresswoman that's running, Valentina Gomez. She seems like she's pretty badass.
Is she based? Somebody said she looks good, but I didn't really hear a lot about her politics. The thing is, we have to maintain the America First movement. It seemed like we were going off track with the whole make Israel great again bullshit, but apparently Trump just shut down Bibi today and said we're not attacking Iran. That's off the table. And now all the Jews and the Jew supporters are upset. Did you hear about that?
Good. Yeah, good. I'm glad because we're done sending our men and women to fight their battles.
Yeah, that has to be over. It was, for one thing, it was ridiculous to maintain in the first place, and it made Trump look weak. I mean, even he understood he looked weak, and I think him today telling the Israelis, "No, we're not attacking Iran on your behest again." I think that pissed a lot of people off, but it impressed me. It impressed me. I'm grateful, because the last thing I want is an unnecessary war. I'm think about it. We invaded Syria for Israel, Libya for Israel, Iran for Israel, Iraq for Israel, Afghanistan for Israel. Everything we've done all these years through all these administrations was for Israel. None of these
Yep.
None of these countries are nowhere near us. And the hijackers on the alleged 9/11, and I don't believe any of that shit, because when they showed me Shanksville, Pennsylvania, there was no wreck, just a smoking hole in the ground. And I'm like, wait a minute. So did the plane crash and go into a different dimension and just left smoke? Like, where's the wreckage? So I don't believe any of that from 9/11 anyway. But it did. Remember, they said the passports that hit the ground were from some Saudi people. So I'm like,
Yeah, the passport that somehow survived when
yeah.
everything else was demolished. Yeah, that come on now.
Bro, did you remember? Hey, that's the thing. We didn't have the internet back then, or we probably would have believed. We would have believed. We would have just been like, we would have questioned. Nobody would have believed that bullshit if we had the internet back then. No more than anybody believes that that Charlie Kirk was shot by a 30-06 bullet, and his neck wasn't completely blown off. Like, nobody believes the bullshit. We know better, but because we have the internet, we can question things. But back then, whatever they said goes, and it would be up to you to just go out and talk to the people in your immediate circle about how it doesn't make sense. But thank goodness for the internet. But I can understand why they want to get rid of it and why they want to put limits on it. There's like these Israeli companies that are trying to buy up all these internet companies to stop you from talking on the internet, and we just let that happen. They want to buy. They're trying to buy Twitter from Elon Musk. Some Israelis. They're trying to buy it. They want to get rid of America, because we're the only country with free speech. We're the only ones they have to worry about. They can arrest. They're arresting citizens in other countries right now for just doing what we're doing right now.
The one thing I do not do, I don't get my news from any major news outlet. I get my news from guys like you.
Yeah.
Because they're all bought and paid for. They'll tell you what they want you to hear.
Absolutely. And honestly, that's why I started making content, because I kept fact checking people on TV, and I kept finding out they were skewing the information and lying to me. Like I said, I used to, and it's embarrassing to admit this, but there used to be these two gay guys, right? And they used to influence everything I thought about the world and about local information. And they control what I thought about the president for about 3 years. I didn't discover the amazement of Trump and what he was actually saying and how much I agree with until probably 2019. So I wasted 3 years talking bad about this guy, sounding like a liberal. And it's because two gay guys were in my ear, and I'm not even gay. So why am I listening to two gay guys? We don't even have the same things in common. We have different agendas. And it was Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper on CNN completely warped my opinion about Trump and what was going on. And I'm embarrassed, but now I can talk about it openly. And I'm just like, you know what? It was a learning experience. So now what I do is I like to go in and I listen to the actual people that were involved, the people in these areas, and I make my own informed decision. I don't just regurgitate what I hear on the news, because that's dangerous. I didn't think about it. If I would have believed everything they told me about the fake virus, then I'd be dead right now, like the rest of my friends. I had to literally figure out that was all fake too. It was all nonsense. I remember they showed one video of one guy in China. He just fell over on the ground, and they used that as the excuse to lock down my country. That one video of one Asian guy falling over. I'm like, so wait a minute, we're gonna lock down over that? How do you know he didn't get shot, or how do you know he didn't choke on some chicken broth, or he didn't just have a heart attack? Like, what? Why would you? Why do you mean? What do you mean? I have to? That's the excuse. And I rolled out the lockdown, and I remember being in the dark about everything for a while. And now, because of that, I made it my mission to know everything. I have to know everything.
So
So that's
interestingly, we just completed ART, annual refresher training. We have to do it once a year for the federal law enforcement in our agency.
right.
And I was talking to a woman I work with. She's black, and I was telling her what you were saying about how the COVID shot is aimed at killing blacks, and
Absolutely.
she damn near started crying, and she was like, "So many of my family are dying, and you're the only one that's ever said this." And I was like, "Look, man, it wasn't brought to my attention. Like it was told to me, and I gave her your information." And she started crying when I told her that.
You want me to you want me to replay the proof? You want me to show you? There's two pieces of proof I can tell you. It was designed to kill specifically only black people. Everybody else is what they call collateral damage, but it was an acceptable loss to get rid of one community. And I understand because I'm a part of a couple of think tanks myself. I understand big picture dynamics. There's something that are called considerable acceptable losses and collateral damage, no matter what you're trying to do in life. I understand that dynamic. So I understand there's going to be others that are going to die, but as long as we reach our goal, then the means justify the ends, right? Let me show you a little bit of proof. If you got a second, if you don't mind, this is how I can prove to you it was specifically designed for black people and black people only. And I'll explain to you the details. Let me see if I can find this clip for you. You probably saw it the other day, but I'll replay it for everybody because there's probably some new people that are going to see this video because I clip the videos and then I post them later because I do the live and then I clip them. Where is this video? You have to see it. Sorry, I'm going fast right here. It's my dog Bacon. Where is this video? It should be right in this area. Should be maybe they probably gave me a community violation for it too. Okay, let me just go ahead and let's go to Instagram, shall we? Let's see if I can find it on here. And when I show people this video, a lot of them don't remember it because they've blocked out their memory. Here we go, right here. Ready?
Ready,
brother? All right, check this out.
Absolutely. And so I think the first thing to know is the difference between DNA and RNA. Right. So I like to think of it as DNA is like your blueprint for your house, right? And RNA is like a contractor that kind of gives information about what to do so that the blueprint comes out okay. And so what happened is they mapped out what the virus looks like and found out that there are these specific proteins in the virus, one of which is called a spike protein. And I call the spike protein the gangster spike protein because
I call the protein the gangster spike protein. And they come to your house and this. Bro, they killed they killed them all. They got them all. If you combine Tyler Perry with rappers and then a woman cosplaying as a black professional physician who's speaking in a vernacular that she's trying to appeal to the lowest IQ African Americans in the nation, all to convince them to accept an experimental injection that's the equivalent of a medical procedure that's irreversible of an unknown origin that is now mysteriously, magically killing everybody 5 years later. And this is one of those videos because listen, she's sitting there with Tyler Perry, one of the largest black producers in the world, right? She's sitting with him. Why is he allowed to give medical information to anybody? And this is in 2021. Why is he allowed to have these conversations? I was kicked off the internet for telling people anything for just reading data. Why was he allowed to have this kind of conversation? What do you think, 2nd Battalion?
because like you said, they had a certain demographic they're targeting, and what better way to have him be a driver for their goal.
Have you ever seen this video?
I haven't.
Let me play a few more seconds for you. You don't mind?
Yeah.
All right, watch this.
That little gangster spike protein, that's the one that gets in your cell and makes you sick. And so this is what the technology did. This is so dope. So what they did was they said,
Did she really say this is so dope?
I know. I caught this is so dope.
Listen. You got to understand. They've killed them all. There won't be any more blacks. By the year 2029, at the estimate that I have, the 13%, it's already at 9% right now, according to my best estimates, because I treat Facebook as an obituary. I'm keeping track of all the deaths per families that I know just in California alone. I haven't been calculating the ones in the it's always in places that have a lot of dark cloud cover during the winter. So I'm not calculating. I haven't calculated Illinois and Michigan, but I know the numbers are sky high. In California, where we're from, they've done cloud seeding ever since 2021 to block out the sun. Apparently, sun exposure is the only thing that's keeping people in Texas and Florida that took it alive. Because if it was cloudier in these other places, this the thing that they injected into you would kill you a lot sooner. But in California, that's why you see all the celebrities and all these black people that are famous. They all live in California. And because they've cloud seeded and there's no more sun exposure in California, everyone there is dying. Famously, LeBron James' son, Bronny James, died. But remember they brought him back to life. Remember, he had three heart attacks in one day. Bronny, why do you think he's in the NBA? LeBron was going to speak out against the vaccine and he was going to warn other black people not to take it. But the problem is the black population is a target demographic. They could not have one black person speak out against it. Why do you think they got rid of Wendy Williams when she said she wouldn't take the vax, famously to Dr. Oz on her show? They got rid of Wendy Williams. LeBron James was going to speak out against, you don't remember when Bronny James died?
No.
Oh, man, come on. You see, this is a good thing about us having these conversations live. We can talk
Sunday's
about
strike by Russian military forces on the Yavory training ground in the Lvov region seems to have sobered up many foreign mercenaries.
I'm sorry, I'll play it for you.
Now to a scary incident involving the son of NBA superstar LeBron James. 18-year-old Bronny, a freshman on the USC basketball team, suffered a cardiac arrest on Monday during a workout on campus, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. CBS's Jonathan Bigliotti has the latest details.
Tonight, concerns over whether Bronny James, one of the most recognizable basketball recruits ever, will still be able to play after being rushed to the hospital and admitted to the ICU. A family spokesperson saying Bronny is now out of intensive care and in stable condition.
The son of LeBron James, Bronny James, made it official on Saturday, committing to USC.
Bronny, the elder son of LeBron James, the NBA's all-time leading scorer, was a top recruit of Sierra Canyon High School in Los Angeles. In May, he announced his decision to play for USC and was at a practice when he went into cardiac arrest. A sudden cardiac arrest occurs when an electrical malfunction in the heart causes it to stop pumping blood to vital.
Now, this was only a few weeks after him taking the second shot. So the thing is, LeBron, now they don't tell you all these details on this news report, but he apparently had 3 back-to-back heart attacks. But because he was in a gym that had a medical facility, they were able to save him. Other people are not so lucky. The other people, everybody's not going to be so lucky. So LeBron was going to speak out and say, hey, this is from the vaccine. Because remember, LeBron was on the fence if he was going to take it, and there was all this pressure on him to get vaccinated. He was going to speak out against it. They told him not to. He made a deal with the devil. But see, LeBron James, Bronny James' son, with a heart condition like this, he wouldn't even qualify to play for a rec league. He wouldn't qualify to play for a high school team when you have a heart condition like this. They were able to push him into the NBA because that was the agreement he made for his silence. And that's why it seems like his son doesn't belong in the NBA, because he doesn't. They only put him there as a bribe to keep his father from telling other already vaccine hesitant black people to not take the injection because of what it did to his son. So he sold out all of his people for whatever price it was, and to get his son into the NBA. It's crazy. I didn't know you didn't know. I thought a lot of people knew about this.
And I'm sure the son had like the best, medical care. Because if he didn't, Cedar Sinai, if he didn't, he would have been just another statistic.
Another black death. Just like all of them. You know who just died? John Forte from the Fugees, D'Angelo, everybody's favorite black actors. Now, not the fair-skinned ones like Steph Curry or Drake, but the darker ones. That's why I wrote this whole thing called "The Darker They Are, the Harder They Fall." I have a whole series on Instagram where I'm just showing how the darker black people are just all dying in mass, and there's no alarms being sound. This revolution will not be televised. Nobody's talking about it. So, and I'll give you. You want me to show you exhibit number 2 that they targeted black people with this?
Yes, please.
Okay. And here we go.
But before you buy that day chain, you gotta wait chain. Gotta go vaccinate chain to the spring chain.
All right, listen, you probably think I'm anti-vax, but you be wrong. I'll tell you, that's an anti-fact. There's a lot of people close to me that have the vaccine.
A handsome young brother wants to vax that thing up. Looking real like you need to vax that thing up. Feeling freaky all night, you need to vax that thing up. Girl, you look good, want to vax that thing up. You's a handsome young brother wants to vax.
Normally the video.
Did you know anybody else from any other racial group that had famous entertainers making literal music to promote taking an experimental unknown injection into their bloodstream that was irreversible and nobody knew the origin? Did you hear about that for anybody else? We had our famous rappers making songs about taking the vaccine. Nobody else. There was nothing from Coldplay. There was nothing from any other artists of any other American artists of any other racial background. Not one. Not one. There was no mariachi band in Mexico that was playing guitars and vaccine needles were flying out and just stabbing hot fucking Latinas in the arm. There was no campaign in China where you see Jet Li and Jackie Chan do roundhouse kicks and they kick needles and then the needles fly into the arms of Asian kids and they go, Taya! There was none of that. There was nothing about Leonardo DiCaprio and Matthew McConaughey riding in a Lincoln talking about we're on our way to get vaccinated to save the America. There was no campaign for any other racial group in the entire country to take the vaccine except for black people. Yeah. I just gave you two major, these were two huge of red flags and proof that it was only for them. I have news reports where there were people who were white in some places that were protesting because they didn't have access to it, but yet the blacks in the hood and in the projects, they already had vaccination drive-throughs already set up in their neighborhoods where they could go through, and people were complaining about it. And I was like, it's not made for you. It's made for them. You don't need to take it. So that already shows. And and this is other bad news right here. And this is what actually got me into making content. This guy right here, Scott Adams.
I'm going to tell you that the anti-vaxxers appear to be right. Somebody who did not get vaccinated, got a little Omicron, or maybe even a worse one, but recovered. Now you've got natural immunity and you have no vaccination in you. Can we all agree that that was the winning path?
Now I'm doing an episode tonight to rest in peace to Scott Adams. He passed away 3 days ago. He was doing content in his terminal hospital bed even on New Year's Eve, and I was watching him. Now, when Scott Adams made this announcement, this was about 1.5 years ago, I realized that there are going to be a lot of people in this space that complied, and some of our favorite content creators and people that read us the news and talk to us, they're not going to be here any longer and because I was doing my estimates years ago. So I said, okay, I'm going to still be here. Maybe I should inject myself, no pun intended, into the space where I can maybe help fill the void that we're going to experience from a subsequent die-off due to the compliance with the mandates of Biden in 2021. Remember, it was a whole employer mandate thing. So
yep, very familiar.
Yeah, so that's how I got into this, because of somebody like Scott Adams. And to watch him pass, it broke my heart, because I used to love his comics. And, I loved his views, because when he knew his death was coming, he decided to be more conservative, and he just didn't care anymore about what people thought. And, you know, he talked about certain topics that other people shied away from. And I appreciated him a lot. And I just did a video on him in December and his condition. And then he just passed away. There's been just so much going on. I didn't have a second to do a special video just for him. But again, it wasn't for everyone. Now, the beautiful thing about this, right, is that there is a God. And I say there's a God because there are nurses all over the world, and they were all reporting having a dream. And they all said in a dream that God came to them and told them to swap out the vaccine with saline and start injecting saline to people. So nurses all over the world there was a nurse in Germany that injected like 30,000 people with saline. And they caught her, but that's just the ones they know about. They said she could have gave out more than that. And there's nurses in America. There was a nurse in Virginia. There's a nurse in Washington State. There was a nurse in New York. There were nurses in certain areas that all said they had the same dream. And they started giving people saline injections. I think that right there is going to saved the lives of millions right there. Fraud saved a lot of us, but I'll be honest. I don't think anybody swapped out the blacks. I don't think the people at those centers. I don't think they had them. I don't think they had the Martin Luther King. I had a dream. I don't think that happened for them. I don't think.
No, they got the concentrated solution.
They got the real deal, Holyfield. Because I knew people that died the same day. I know people personally that went down there and they never came home. And I started noticing a pattern because, like, for example, on my cousin's side of the family, we had an uncle that was in prison for 25 years for murder. Works out every day. He's in his 50s, but he had the body of a 25-year-old, super healthy. He went down there, took the jab. Within 2 weeks of the second jab, he was gone. One of the healthiest people we know. So then we started noticing, wait a minute, I'm noticing is a lot of men dying, but they're all men that work out a lot. So athletes, bodybuilders, people that train and go to the gym. Last year I had 7 friends that all died at the gym in LA off of Slauson at the 24-hour gym. While they were working out or playing basketball, they died. And I started saying
they targeted that spike gangster protein.
The gangster spike protein. Exactly. And then I started thinking about it. I said, wait a minute. If this was a bioweapon, then this was created. Think about it. The people that work out, that exercise, the big guys, we are what you would, if 500 years ago, we would be considered the warriors. We'd be the fighters, but now they're considered athletes. If this was a bioweapon to go after the biggest and strongest men in the country, it was brilliantly made. And to make something like that, all you would have to do is just make something that was testosterone reactive, because those will be the men with the highest testosterone levels. And that's why you see it's like 93, 94% men that are dying. And the only women that are passing for the most part are darker skinned Black women. I don't know if you remember I don't know if you remember this woman right here, but this is when I started making that connection. Elvis star dies, Black woman. This is one of the earliest cases of it. Right here. Let's see here. Elvis star. Let's see here. This girl right here. She was in the movie Elvis. She was one of the first ones, and I started remembering how she looked. She was a darker skin, darker complexion, and she took the role, but it was a role that was not intended for her. They were doing something called social justice when it came to casting in Hollywood, but what it was a trap. They were just basically telling people to come in and audition for roles that they didn't earn, just so that they could vaccinate them and get them to take the poison. So, and so she was gone by the summer of 2022. She complied in December. So she only made it, 8 months, 7 months. She was gone. But it's not just her. When I look up the other women who have died from it, they're all darker. Okay, like for example, Black woman, entertainment, died. Where is she at? She was like, yeah, these are all the women that have recently, she died the same day that she took it. Also same night. Angie Stone was in a car accident. These are all just different women, but there was like some famous one who just passed away, and I shared it on social media. So what I do is I keep track of all of this on Facebook. I keep track of all the death. So now people are starting to say, okay, maybe he's on to something because he's been doing this for like 3 years now, and I'm noticing a big pattern. The pattern is there. And don't get me wrong, there are other people of other races dying, but they're all only American, either American.
Well, I think I told you this. So we have 100 and like over 100 employees that work at our agency, and we were forced, not forced, but given the option to take the shot or get fired, and not be able to support our families, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I remember.
The only person that died 1 month after taking the inoculation was a black female here.
Really?
Yes.
What are the odds of that?
Exactly.
The thing is, I've done the research. So I can say I'm actually a specialist in the topic. I'm actually probably the most well-versed people on this subject besides those who were involved in its development. And you know what I've traced back the origin of the development? You know where I traced it back to?
Where?
Epstein.
See, I found it interesting. I listened to one of your videos and I wasn't aware of this. And you mentioned that he had top scientists on his island. Why would you have top scientists on your pedo island?
Let me ask you a question. Why did he have his own office at MIT? And why did he have an office in the science lab at Harvard and Brown? There's like 3 other universities. He had his own office in the research science labs, but no one's ever asking, what was Epstein researching?
What were the scientists doing on his island?
Nobody knows. But guess who knows now, 3rd Battalion? We do. We know what they were researching because that was the thing. I remember back in 2005, they had this huge earthquake in Haiti. There were a lot of orphans, and they said the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation was responsible with helping relocate these orphans, and they took them to these islands, and they were experimented on the islands. So they were kids, but they weren't there for sex. They were there for experiments. And it's like, if you were trying to create something that targeted black people, you were going to need a bunch of black people to experiment on. And what's crazy? You brought up Fauci. Remember, they said Fauci was experimenting on black kids in New York who were what? Orphans. It's verified. Did you remember that?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. To be honest with you, after listening to you, my eyes are becoming more and more open, and I'm a believer. Like I really appreciate what you do. It's the hard truth. You're definitely not going to win any popularity contest. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Oh yeah, I can tell. Yeah, no, honestly, I'll be honest with you. I'm more so worried about being accurate than I am about being liked. If you look at it, like nobody who looks like me is going to be liked for being honest. No one likes Candace Owens. No one likes, there's like, no one likes certain people because we're willing to tell the truth. Like no one likes that guy, Anton Daniels, who was just arguing with the other black dude. No one likes people who will not feed into their victimhood because,
but on the flip side of that coin though, I'm telling you, with what you said, the internet and people now realizing that these major news companies are all bought and paid for, and they're turning to independent reporters. They're starting to really follow hard truth, independent news reporters. Like, Candace Owens is like the hugest podcast there is. And why? Because she speaks the truth. I'm telling you, you are gonna blow up. You're gonna blow up. You're gonna get pushback. But keep on doing it. And people, they're sick of being lied to. We're so sick of it. It's so blatant in your face. Charlie Kirk assassination, all this stuff. It's like, come on now, stop. Just stop. We're sick of it. We need people like you.
Bro, we're done with the Fed slop, and we're tired of people rewriting history, and because we don't go look for it ourselves. So, like, I'll give you an example right now. I see the reason I use Arthur all the time is because sometimes people are like, "Wait a minute, show me where you got this from." So, Arthur's a good place to source things. Let me ask Arthur about this. I want you to hear this. Watch this. Hey, Arthur, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here. I'm ready to go. Just let me know what else you need, and I'll keep the information coming.
Arthur, we have some information about Dr. Fauci that came out. They said that he was caught, that he was exposed for doing research on children who were orphans that were black back during the AIDS scam pandemic. Can you talk to us about that information? Can you look that up?
Sure. In summary, the claims about Dr. Fauci conducting secretive experiments on black orphan children during the AIDS pandemic are not supported by credible evidence. While Fauci was indeed involved in HIV/AIDS research, including efforts to include children in clinical trials, there's no verified record of unethical or racially targeted experimentation. Multiple fact checkers have found these allegations to be unfounded. In short, it's important to distinguish between documented facts and unproven claims.
Okay, well then how about this? I understand you're limited on what you can say. Talk to us about those children, the efforts to include children in clinical trials. How about that? Let's just talk about that.
Certainly. Let's talk about the historical context of including children in clinical trials, particularly during the HIV/AIDS crisis. In the 1980s and 1990s, as the AIDS epidemic spread, there was an urgent need to find effective treatments for all age groups, including children. Children born with HIV or who contracted it needed treatment, but most early drug trials were focused on adults. Over time, efforts were made to include children in clinical trials so that pediatric treatments can be tested and approved. These trials were conducted under ethical guidelines and oversight, with the goal of finding safe and effective treatments for children suffering from HIV/AIDS. It's a complex and sensitive history, but the intent was to ensure that children had access to treatments tailored to their needs. So that's the broader context. It was about expanding treatment options to a vulnerable group, not about unethical experimentation.
In your opinion, as an AI, would this borderline play true to the saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions?
From a neutral perspective, that phrase can sometimes be applied to situations like this. In other words, even well-intentioned efforts like trying to include children in clinical trials to find effective treatments can still lead to controversy, unintended consequences, or ethical debates. So yes, it's fair to say that sometimes good intentions don't always prevent difficult outcomes or complex ethical discussions.
Let me ask you a question. How many deaths how many children died in these clinical trials? I know that's going to be difficult for you to find, but can you find any data on how many of these children died? Because essentially you're saying these children were experimented on in the name of the greater good. Is that also a fair assessment?
Certainly. From the information available, there's no precise figure on how many children might have died specifically due to participation in those HIV clinical trials. Some reviews indicate that a number of children in foster care who were involved in such trials did pass away, but it was determined that those deaths weren't directly caused by the trial medications themselves. Essentially, the data doesn't give a clear-cut number, and it's important to note that these trials were conducted with the intention of finding treatments, even if that brings up ethical debates.
Okay. So tell me, were these children, if you're involved in a clinical trial, can you tell me, were these kids basically experimented on? Yes or no?
Certainly. In the most straightforward terms, yes. Children who were involved in these clinical trials were participants in medical experiments. Any clinical trial, by definition, is an experiment to test the safety and efficacy of treatments. So in that sense, these children were indeed part of experimental treatments aimed at finding ways to treat HIV/AIDS in pediatrics. Of course, these trials were conducted under ethical standards. It's fair to say that the children were part of medical experiments designed to benefit future patients. It's a nuanced and ethically complex area, but the short answer is yes, they were involved in clinical experimentation.
And you did mention these kids were in foster care.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. Some of the children who were involved in these clinical trials were indeed in foster care. In other words, many of the pediatric participants were children who were wards of the state or living in foster care systems at the time. This aspect has contributed to ongoing discussions about the ethical considerations of enrolling particularly vulnerable populations in medical research. So yes, that's an important part of the historical context.
Tell me, what are the benefits of using kids that were wards of the state or in foster care? Why would they experiment on those kids so much?
Certainly. From a formal standpoint, one reason children in foster care were involved in these trials is that these children were often already in need of medical treatment and were considered a vulnerable population that might benefit from access to experimental therapies. In other words, the rationale was that these children needed medical care, and including them in trials could potentially give them access to treatments that weren't otherwise available. Of course, this is a complex and ethically sensitive area. The children in foster care were under the guardianship of the state, which made it legally easier for them to be enrolled in trials compared to children who had parents who might refuse consent. This convenience is part of why foster children were often included, but it's important to acknowledge that this has raised significant ethical discussions about their protection and consent.
Did you hear that? Now, I know you might not know this, but on average, what are the racial makeups of most of the children in foster care? Can you do a breakdown?
Certainly. As of the most recent data available, about 43% of children in foster care in the United States are white, around 22 to 23% are black, and roughly 21 to 22% are Hispanic. Smaller percentages include children of multiple races, Native American or Alaska Native children, and a very small fraction of Asian or Pacific Islander children. Overall, Black and Native American children are notably overrepresented in the foster care system compared to their share of the general population.
So it would be fair to say that if you were pulling kids from foster care, you would likely pull Black and Native American children who could possibly be used in the trial since they are overrepresented. Correct?
Yes, that's a reasonable assessment. Given that Black and Native American children are indeed overrepresented in the foster care system, it's fair to say that they would have been more likely to be included in those trials. In other words, because of their higher representation in foster care, these groups were more likely to be selected as participants. That's simply a reflection of the demographic makeup of the foster care population.
Thank you, Arthur. That'll be all. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, 2nd Battalion? Oh, yeah, he left. I think we got disconnected. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff people don't know, and I try to have these conversations to kind of bring people to be up to date on where we are in the world. I've been telling people for the past year and a half, 2 years, start collecting your Black memorabilia. If you can find CDs or music, save it. Any maybe shoes or clothing, any memorabilia from anybody who's Black, who's famous, save it. One day it'll be worth something, because if this population disappears and they have to go onto a reservation just so that they can even stay pure, where there's actually such thing as a Black person still alive that had both two Black parents, then they're going to have to be on places like a reservation to rebuild their numbers, if that's even possible. However, the culture is against that, because having children and being married are hallmarks of what they say is white supremacy. So even the culture doesn't call for them to reproduce. There's no family in the culture, and they're also being euthanized from the injection. So there won't be any more Black people. I can say that with confidence now, because, well, I've done my own numbers. No one else is going to want to say it with me, because it's not something that will win you any popularity points, but reality fairly does. People are not happy that I'm right now talking about how these sheriffs are below the law, but federal authorities are above it. They don't like that description, but that's exactly factually correct. So luckily for me, I'm not here to to make necessarily friends. I'm more so here just to be accurate. Hey, brother, thank you for tuning in. 2nd Battalion, I always love talking to you. Love having you here, brother. I know you're at work. Sorry. I'm just glad you came and talked and gave your input. I appreciate it. And Caps in the USA, I appreciate you too for also being here, having these conversations. These are important. We do need to talk about these things, because this is all happening right now in real time, and there's so much going on. It's good for us to have these conversations so we can put things in perspective and we can kind of prioritize so we can know what decisions to make for ourselves and our family and for the future of our republic, where we all live. You know, they say that the tree of liberty is periodically watered with the blood of patriots or something like that. So that means so that we can have a brighter future for our children that remotely resembles where we grew up, we might have to fight and die to protect it. So it might be our calling. You know, we had 30 years, 40 years of peace in this country, and you know, you never know what it's going to call for. So that's why people like me are here having these conversations and showing that there's still something to fight for, and there are some things that are more important than just ourselves. I mean, there's a bigger picture. You know, some of us have children, and we have to make sure we provide a place for them to live in a future, because if the United States falls to the left, then where will we go? There is nowhere for us to go. This is it. You know, we make our last stand here. Like and subscribe, share the video. I'm going to chop up this video and and I'm going to post the in my shorts. You're going to see all these different clips from these videos, like my other videos too. So please follow the channel, subscribe to it. I appreciate you guys for all tuning in. I'll be back live in about 30 minutes. We'll go eat some tacos, drink some water, and then I'll be back on with another topic. Remember, it's America first and America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.